Hi, Andy XL back with another NFXL podcast, and it's time to update my latest mock draft. Now, I did mock draft 2.0 last week when we knew what the first 18 picks were going to be, who had them. So, this is mock draft 2.1, if you like, where I've added the next six, and I've also made a couple of changes to the picks that I had from last week. So, let's go through the ones, remind you of the ones I made last week and how we came about that. So, scrolling down to the right place on my document. So, I had the New York Jets trading up to pick one, taking that off the Raiders, and then taking Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback out of Indiana. Then the Raiders traded back to pick two. They also got pick 16 in this draft off the Jets in that deal. So after trading back, they at pick two, they took Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State. I had the Arizona Cardinals taking Reuben Bain Jr., the edge guy out of Miami, at pick three. Another Miami guy went at four to the Tennessee Titans, offensive tackle Francis Marigoa. New York Giants at five took Peter Woods, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. Cleveland Browns then came in and took Dante Moore as the second quarterback off the board, the guy out of Oregon, now that he's declared. Um, Washington Commanders at pick seven took inside linebacker Arvell Reese out of Ohio State. The New Orleans Saints picked up the star running back from Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love. At pick nine, the Kansas City Chiefs added an edge rusher in David Bailey. Now, I've changed that from last week. So I've got them taking Bailey out of Texas Tech. Last week, I thought Kenyon Sadiq might go there to the Chiefs because it just makes sense if Travis Kelce retires. But Sadiq didn't play well in that game last week, and to me, his stats are a bit underwhelming. So maybe pick nine's a bit too early for him. So that's why I've changed that. Right. At pick 10, I had the Cincinnati Bengals taking Keldrick Faulk, the edge out of Auburn. Miami Dolphins took a wide receiver in Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. Then at pick 12, now last week I had the Dallas Cowboys taking David Bailey, but now he's gone to the Chiefs. The Cowboys changed tack, and instead of going for an edge guy, they try and fill their need at cornerback by taking Jamod McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee. At 13, the Los Angeles Rams take another corner, so it's back-to-back corners in Mansour Delaney out of LSU. Week 14, pick 14, Baltimore Ravens. They look to bolster their wide receiver core and give some help for Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson by taking the Ohio State wideout Carnell Tate. 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tried to sort that O line out and give themselves some um, resi- res- rigidity there, especially considering the injury problems they've had this year, and Tristan Wirth seems to have year on year. They take Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle out of Utah. Right, I said the Raiders picked up pick 16 as well in that trade back from pick one. So with that pick at 16, I've got them taking an offensive tackle. They need to sort that O line out. So Acadian Proctor out of Alabama was that guy. The Detroit Lions take Avion Terrell, a cornerback out of Clemson. Um, I think originally I might have had that down as McCoy, but it's changed now because McCoy's gone. So Avion Terrell is their guy at 17. At pick 18, Minnesota Vikings took a defensive tackle, Caden McDonald out of Ohio State. So that brings me on to the new ones, as it were, in this batch. So let's look at pick 19, which now belongs to the Carolina Panthers after they were uh, heroically beaten by the Rams on wildcard week. So I think the Panthers will add another young talent for Bryce Young to work with in the form of Kenyon Sadiq, that tight end that I had going at nine to the Chiefs. Well, I now think he's more mid to late round one territory. So he might fall to the Panthers at 19 as still the best tight end in this class. The Panthers could also look at defensive tackle or even running back if they don't bring Rico Dowdle back. But tight end for me is the biggest need. And with the tight end one available to them, that's what they do here as far as I'm concerned. Right, pick 20 is another one for the Dallas Cowboys. Um, Now, I'm trying to remember how the Cowboys got this. I think they got it off yeah, I can't remember how the Cowboys got this pick, but they've got it. The early postseason exit for the Packers, that's who it was. It's in my script. So they got it off the Packers in the Mika Parsons trade. So this makes this the first of 2 round picks the Cowboys got as a result of that trade. And if I were they, I would follow up on addressing their cornerback need at pick 12 by trying to fill that Parsons size void in their pass rushing unit with this pick. And they're two good candidates. There were three, but Mateo Ugalele, the guy out of Oregon, has said he's going back to school next year. So there's now two candidates towards the end of round one: TJ Parker from Clemson and Cassius Howell from Texas A&M. Now, although taking a Texas A&M guy would be a popular move, right now Parker's probably the guy to go with. So I'll take Parker with this pick. Pick 21 belongs to the Pittsburgh Steelers now. Depending on what Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin's future are following their wildcard week hammering from the Texans, quarterback could be a huge issue for the Steelers this offseason. But when Mendoza and Moore long gone by the time this pick comes around, the Steelers would have to be convinced one of the likes of Ty Simpson, Carson Beck, or Trinidad Chambliss, if he comes, well, he's been refused his extra year of eligibility, so it looks like he's got no option but to join this draft. So do one of those three justify using this pick on them to find the answer to that question here? And on the basis I don't see any of them as day one material, I'll say no to that one here. O-line could be another area the Steelers look at. Olivega Ione could be a nice addition, particularly if they do not sign Isaac Samualo at guard. But having let George Pickens walk mid-season, they need help at wide receiver. So I've got them taking a slot-type receiver in Kevin KC Concepcion to replace the stopgap Adam Thielen that they've got at that spot right now. Pick 12 then belongs to the Los Angeles Chargers. Many will scream, get an O-lineman here. But the Chargers' O-line issues have largely been due to neither tackle, Joe Alt or Rashawn Slater, being available for most of this season. Getting them back next year could transform this O-line without having to add to it. Running back wise, the Chargers look to have a plan to run the ball heavy this season, but they lost Amari and Hampton for some games and Najee Harris for pretty much all of the season. So if they don't bring Harris back after his injury, they could look to add another one via this draft. But with Jeremiah Love off the board, this doesn't look like a good spot to address that issue at. Now, one thing that is true is Khalil Mack is a 35-year-old free agent this off-season. So I would add another edge rusher to replace him here. These guys are so valuable in the quarterback-dominated AFC after all. So if you can get pressure on those quarterbacks, helps you a lot. The best available here would be the aforementioned Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M. And that's where I'd see the Chargers going here, which makes it two back-to-back Aggies in round one after Concepcion went with pick 21. So pick 23, the now dethroned champion Philadelphia Eagles. Their reign as champs are over, and much discontent has been rumbling under the surface in Philly all season. So we could see all of that surface this postseason and result in a number of personnel changes happening. But one of the main sources of that discontent appears to be AJ Brown. So will he be back next season or find pastures new? Even if he stays, the Eagles have him and Devonta Smith, who is primarily their slot guy, with Jahan Dotson being a make weight really at the other wideout position, and he's a free agent this offseason too. So I have them taking another big wide receiver on the outside in Denzel Boston out of Washington. And then finally in this mock, Cleveland Browns, who got this pick from Jacksonville. So they've got pick 24 now as a result, with no fewer than 4 interior O linemen hitting free agency, including 2 guards. The Browns bring in some youth on that O line following taking Dante Moore earlier in this round. Makes sense to protect him once you've got him. So Oliver Vega Ione, who slipped down to this spot, he can play either guard position. So this seems a good choice with this pick for the Browns. So that's my mock draft 2.1. 2.2 will come out next week once we know which 4 teams have fallen on divisional week to fill spots 25 to 28. So there we go. Look in the next day or two for my January wide receiver update as well. So that'll be coming out very soon as I continue to focus in more and more on the 2026 draft. And I'll continue to advertise myself as one of, if not the foremost draft predictor anywhere that you'll find. And I don't brag generally, but statistically, I know that's the case from recent years. So stay tuned to me and you'll know what's going to happen in the draft. And wide receivers will be the next thing I look at. See you soon.